Hey, do you prefer to find the joy in life, or do you just want some help with that? If so, you're in the right place. So come on in and join the Joy Bunny clan. This is the My Slice of Life podcast. Hello and welcome to what is the bonus episode for the latest season in the podcast. That season was Let's Get Gardening. Now, if you haven't been here before, the bonus episode is really just a little extra. Just a little bit of fun. Usually it'd be a story or something extra that I have found to give a little bit more information about what I was talking about, but it wouldn't have fit into the actual proper episodes, if you know what I mean. So this time, what I wanted to do was just, because it was about gardening, was just to give you a little bit of background about what happened when we first got our allotment, our very first one. And it's about 12 years ago now, so it's a long time ago. And when we first got it, we knew nothing about gardening, nothing. We lived in a flat, we didn't have a garden. We went to an open day. The local allotments, they had an area set aside for new plots. So they had an open day with their other site, which is smaller, so we could all go and have a look around and decide, do you want to put your name down for one, or, that kind of thing. So in our wisdom, we thought, okay, let's go and have a look and see what these are like. And we put our name down for one, and we got one. And we got one of the small ones to start with. It was 10 metres by 10 metres, a little square. New land. It was a field that had just been divided up, so brand new land, but it was full of couch grass. When I say full, I mean full. One of the worst weeds to be dealing with. So we decided, in our wisdom, my husband and I, that we were going to weed it by hand, inch by inch. And that's what we did. We got our mats and little hand forks, and we weeded out every piece of couch grass and every other weed that was there by hand. And I'll tell you now, we got laughed at. It sounds crazy to say that now, doesn't it? But we did. We got laughed at. And there was a lot of people thinking we were doing it wrong. And one guy actually went past and said to us, kind of on the quiet, he said, "You're doing it right. Keep going." Now, he wouldn't say that in front of other people, but he said it to us on the quiet. He knew folk were laughing, and he just kind of went, "Look, you've got the right idea. Keep going the way you're going." You know how you always get these old-time gardeners, like they've been there forever. They were born a gardener. I think they were born wearing the boiler suit, which seems to be the obligatory uniform of these old gardeners. So he said to us, "You're doing it right." But another guy, I'll never forget it, another guy came up, leaning over our fence, as if he owned it, laughing, saying that he had just sprayed Roundup on everything. And all he has to do now is wait 6 weeks, and he can put all his plants in, and he'll be growing way before us. Ha ha ha. You're laughing at us. And we didn't know much about Roundup then, but we knew we didn't want to use weed killers. Our son was only 2 at the time. We wanted it to be the kind of place where he could wander around, pick a carrot out the ground and eat it. So we didn't want to use weed killers. But we kept at it. We kept weeding by hand, inch by inch, and gradually started learning a bit more about gardening and how to do it, basically, in natural ways. Don't get me wrong, we're not greenies, we're not, save the earth. We just wanted it to be as healthy as it could be for us, for our family. That was always our plan. All we wanted to do was grow food, grow as much of our own food as possible, and that hasn't actually changed. That's what we still want to do. Anyway, so as time goes on, you learn more about the gardening, and gradually we learned more about what kind of plants we wanted to grow, and we started buying seeds in, and we did start, I think, with a few bought plants. You get your little tray of 6 cabbages, put them in, bingo, it worked. So then we thought, well, can we do that ourselves from seed? And that's the way it went. And I've said this all through the season, start small, and we did start small. You can always add more plants. You can always improve your knowledge. And that's what we did. And like I say, we started off with a few bought plants, and then people would give us a couple of plants. That was great. We got a gooseberry bush, I remember that, and some strawberries. So that started us off there. And if people, if they've grown too many, they would pass some to us. If we had bought too many, we would pass over, and that's how it went. As time went on, though, we decided to do everything from seed, and that's what we did. And that's actually still what I do 12 years later. I grow everything from seed. I mean, I did say, I might buy a cucumber plant. I bought more cucumber seeds. I know I'm really pushing it. It's very, very late, but I have them. And in fact, that's a bit of a news flash. I'm going to show you them. I am now putting up videos on Patreon. So if you become a patron, hopefully this works. I've never done this before, trying to record the episode and film it at the same time. But this is, if I can reach them. I've got them growing on, come here. I've got them growing on a hot water bottle to aid germination. And if you can see it, you'll see these are my cucumber plants here, getting a little leggy, but I'll pot them up soon. There's a couple more trying to come up. And spring onion here, because my seeds didn't do well this year. I can actually feel the heat from the bottom there, so I'm happy with them. So it's just to let you know, I'll be putting up behind the scenes kind of background videos on Patreon now, if you are interested. So there are things going to be going on Patreon, in case you were wondering. So I'm just getting the soil off my fingers. So where was I? Right, yeah. We started growing from seeds. That's what we do. We started getting more gardening books because we wanted to know more about it. Yourself, you get, what's wrong with this plant? Or how am I going to grow this one better? Or what are the conditions for this? And we kept going and we kept going. Now, we are by no means experts. My husband's actually not fit enough to do the gardening, so I do it all. I am not an expert, have never claimed to be. I've always put myself down as an enthusiastic amateur, and that is what I am. According to Dearest Son, I'm obsessed with gardening. I wouldn't quite agree with that, but he's convinced it's my obsession, and I can't tell him otherwise. He's just convinced that's what it is. But by doing all those things, bit by bit, we started to see the harvests coming in. And we got seaweed. We don't live far away from a place where we can get really good seaweed, and we actually dug that in. Now I wouldn't dig it in, but we did. We dug it in. And that was a 10 by 10 plot. We made a little path and we had a shed. And we ran out of space on that plot. Our cabbages, the potatoes, the carrots, parsnips, remember the parsnips even now, they were huge. Our cabbages were huge. And we, like I say, we had made a path from the gate. It went straight up, and then you would turn left, and then that would take you to the shed. And the path that we made originally looked pretty big, but the plants would grow so big and they were encroaching onto the path. We ran out of room. So we decided, let's get a bigger plot. And we did. We actually did a swap with a guy. That's a whole other story, because there were a few people up there not happy about us moving to another plot. Still don't know why, but that caused problems for some reason, but I won't go into that any further. But I'm still there, still in that big plot, same one that we moved to, and still going strong, still loving it. 12 years later, I would be up there every day if I could. Obviously I can't, so I've actually expanded our little garden. If you're on the blog and YouTube, you will see parts of the garden now. I've tried to build that polytunnel this year out of scrap, and I'm very disappointed with it. I am and I'm not. It's working to an extent. I have somewhere slightly more protected to grow the stuff on before I can take it up to the plot. There's some things will be staying in there, but the roof has been a disaster. The middle hoops have been a bit of a disaster. They were leaning over. I think they're a little bit too long and not strong enough to hold the weight of the cover, so they've collapsed. We had really heavy rain, and there's 2 covers on it. And the reason there's 2, you know that green cover that you get with these little polytunnels? It was really old and full of holes, so I made a mesh one to go over the top. Now, mesh obviously has holes. The original cover is full of holes, so the rain got in. And I thought, in my wisdom, I've covered the bottom half of, this all around the sides of the polytunnel. I thought, I've covered that in bubble wrap. I'll just keep going and do the roof. Not really thinking too much about when it rains, that rain is going to push onto the bubble wrap. And I opened that zip and it's like giant rain boobs, for want of another phrase, but that's what was hanging down from my ceiling. Giant rain boobs. So I had to go around with a bucket and collect. I mean, it's a good way. I'm collecting lots of rainwater, but it's not the way I wanted to do it. So I'm going back to the drawing board on that one. I'm going to take the bubble wrap off the roof completely. I'm thinking I might just leave that off and have it up the sides and start saving for a proper polytunnel. So that at the moment, that's kind of where I am. It was a great idea at the time. It's not altogether working, if I'm honest. Like I say, it's protecting the plants. When it's sunny, which we had a day of sun a couple of weeks ago, it was great. It was roasting in there. But I don't know what we are today, about 14 degrees, maybe 13, something like that. It's not hot. So that's where I am just now, and that is what I wanted to let you know about. Oh, the other thing I wanted to tell you just before I go. If you've been keeping up with the blog and the YouTube channel, you will see I recently did posts on both places about recognising plants as seedlings. And the one I focused on was parsnips, one because that's the area I was weeding on the plot. But I remembered when we first got our very first plot up at the allotments. And like I say, threw all my seeds in, very excited. I didn't know what parsnip seedlings look like. Don't laugh at me when I tell you this. I mean, you don't judge, but I mean, you probably will laugh at me, but don't judge me. I didn't know what they looked like, and I weeded every single one of them out. I weeded out all my parsnips. And you'll know parsnip germination isn't great, and you have to wait a long time, because if you miss that window, you miss the window. I can't remember if I put more in. I think it did. Somebody else showed me what they looked like. Eventually I found somebody who was growing them and said, can you just show me what they look like? And when I saw them, I went, oh, that's that weed I took out. I weeded them all out. They were gone. So that was one of the reasons why I wanted to do that video and blog post, just to let other people see what they look like. Because if you haven't grown these things yourself, you don't know what they look like when they're just growing. Things like carrot are quite specific. There's not many weeds look like carrot. Not many weeds look like them. But parsnip does have a few lookalikes. And I got rid of all of them. So I did want to just admit that to you. And with that, dear friends, or should I say joy bunnies, I know it's a thing, I can't get rid of it. I'm going to say farewell. That is it. It's just, like I say, a quick bonus episode for the end of the season. There is a new season starting next week. I'm not going to tell you what it is. You will have to come along and find out. It is completely different from gardening. The whole point of this podcast and basically everything else I do online, it's all about my slice of life. It's things I find interesting and I bring them to you and I want to say, hey, do you like this as much as I do? Do you find this interesting? And I hope you do. And a lot of people seem to, so the next season is something that I find really interesting. And I'm sure a lot of you will too. So if you haven't liked or subscribed or whatever it is you need to do, follow, whatever button, give it a click. Join me for the next season. It's going to be a good one. But until then, you take care of your wee self.